Hi, and welcome to another video by Jimthecarguy. Today we have a 2013 Toyota Highlander. We're going to be changing the front and rear brakes as well as the rotors. We're not going to do just the brake pads because the rotors have a significant amount of rust on the face of it as well as in the back of it. If you change just the brakes, they're going to wear down prematurely and they're going to make a heck of a lot of noise. So we're going to change everything, do the job one time out the door, and it'll be perfect. So, all right, let me bring you in. I'm going to show you what tools you're going to need, and then I'm going to show you the procedure to go ahead and get the job done. So, all right, let me grab some tools, and don't go nowhere. Okay, this is an example of what kind of tools you're going to be needing to do this job the right way. You're going to need a ratchet. A fairly long handle is always good, gives you more leverage to get it loose. You're going to need some sockets to remove the bolts that hold the caliper on as well as the mounting bracket. A hammer just in case everything is rusted. A scraper to clean the rust off of where the rotor mounts onto the hub itself. A couple of screwdrivers. A tool to clean up that rust again. A file possibly. A pry bar, small pry bar, or a very large screwdriver. And the two tools to remove the caliper slide pins if they're rusted into the mounting bracket. And of course you're probably looking at this bolt saying, what the heck is that bolt for? I'll explain to you how this works, and it's very important. It saves you a little bit of banging with a hammer. So alright, so this is what we're going to be doing. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here first. We're going to get in here with the pry bar. Just like this, go in the back like this, and you're going to push this piston back in, all the way back into the bore. So you start to push a little bit. See how it's pushing in? You want to make sure that that piston is pushed all the way back in as far as it can go. The brake is rusted into the mounting bracket, so I could feel it's very rusty, so we are going to address that issue. But there, we push that piston all the way back in. As you can see, the piston is recessed all the way back in as far as it's supposed to be. And now we're going to check these slide pins right here to make sure that they're sliding properly before we go any further. These should slide back and forth very loosely. See this? They're sliding. They're sliding pretty good. So we are going to lubricate them because it is probably very dry, but we will cross that bridge when we get to it. All right, so we're going to take out this bolt here and here. We're going to relocate this off to the side, the caliper. And then we're going to remove the bolts up in here, and also another one down underneath in here. I think it's like a 17 millimeter. This way we could remove this knuckle here from the truck, and then we're going to take this rotor off. Now remember I told you that bolt, this rotor, as you can see, traffic outside today is rough. Okay, see how this rotor is rusted onto the hub right here? You can either bang it with a hammer to try to knock it off, which is fairly easy, or if you don't feel like banging it with a hammer, you could take a bolt like this and you screw it right inside here, like that. Sometimes easier said than done because of rust. You just screw it in like that, and now once we have this all off over here, we'll come back and we'll do this job right here. So, all right, let's get set up and let's get this job done. Okay, now remember I said the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take out these bolts here. They look like they're probably going to be the 12 or 13 millimeter. Let's see what it is. It's probably going to be a 14 millimeter. Alright, so we'll take these bolts out here and then we're going to relocate that off to the side. Now, you can use a swivel head socket or ratchet like this, or you can use a straight head, whichever works for you. I like the swivel one, but I'm going to use the straight one for now. You just snap these loose like that, and like that. Alright, now we're going to take this caliper and we're just going to stand this off to the side someplace. We're not going to lose these bolts here because we are going to need to put these back in here once we put it back together. So we're just going to set these off to the side right now, and then we'll come right back with these. Alright, caliper. We're just going to put it off to the side like this for now. Now normally I'll hang it with a wire, but I have a nice perfect spot right there for it, so we're not going to do that. We are going to take these brake pads out of here. Now that one's pretty rusted in there, so we'll come back to that. Now, I want to point this out to you also. You're probably wondering why the brake pads are being replaced, because you're probably saying, oh, they look pretty thick to me. They're actually not, because you see that piece right there? That's called a disc indicator. When that disc, when the brake rotor comes in contact with that indicator right there, it's going to start to squeak. And you can tell how close it is because you'll see how close it is? So it's very close, getting ready to touch into it, which is irrelevant anyway because these brakes pulsate like crazy because of the rotor being out of round. All right, so we're going to put this off to the side now. We are going to come back to this and we're going to talk about this a little more. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to come up underneath here and we're going to take these bolts out. They're probably going to be 17 millimeters. Yep, 17 millimeter. And we'll break these loose. Oh, now I just want to point this out to you too. Sometimes these slide pins get rusted in here and you can't get them out. Sometimes they're really, really tight. So OTC makes a tool. I don't use it very often, actually very, very rarely. I think I've used it 3 or 4 times. What you do is you take the boot, I'll show you. You take this boot and you slide it back off the pin like this. And then you will put this tool over the top just like this. And you would take a hammer. Are you looking at me? Okay. Take a hammer and you bang it like this. And it knocks that pin right out. So that way you're not damaging the back of the pin up in here. This tool actually fits in like this. And then you can bang it out without damaging it. Like I said, I don't use them very often, but sometimes when they're seized up, if these are seized in there, I usually change the mounting bracket. But if you're not going to change the bracket, this is the way to go. You're not going to damage the pin. If it's a little bit tight, you can get in here and you can bang it and knock it out, versus using a pair of vice grips on here and damaging this area right here. All right, they also make another version like this here. It's actually the, let's see what number it is here. It's the OTC. This one is actually for the impact gun. It connects onto the impact gun itself. But we're not going to use this either. This is the OTC. It's 7302 and 7301. Those are the parts that, you know, for getting out those rusted slide pins. It beats destroying them, especially if you have to reuse them again. All right, enough said about that. We're not going to have to worry about that because these slide properly. But if you want the information about those tools or any of the other tools you see me using, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to share it with you. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that bracket off here. This is the mounting bracket that actually holds the brake calipers in. I mean the brake pads in place. They're usually pretty tight, but once you break them loose, they usually come right out without a problem. All right, again, don't lose these because you're going to need to reuse these bolts when you install the caliper mounting bracket back onto the vehicle. All right, but for now, we're going to put them to the side and we're going to come back to that. This we are also going to come back to. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this here, but we'll come back to that in a minute. All right, now, remember we talked about taking this rotor off. One, you can get in the back with a hammer here and you can bang on it to knock it out, which is fairly easy, comes out okay. There's actually another way, don't go nowhere. Okay, rusty rotors are a big problem. Sometimes they rust onto the hub itself. You can get in here with a pry bar like this here. You put it back behind this right here and you pull on it, and sometimes you can break it loose. As you can see with this one, well, maybe you can't see, but I'll give a little more distance here. You can see here, this one is stuck pretty good. All right, so you have two choices. One, you can get back here with the pry bar like this, and then you can get in here with a hammer and you bang it right here, and you'll pull at the pry bar at the same time. As you're pulling on the pry bar, you bang here and it should pop off. Or you can do it the easy way. You put that bolt in there that I showed you before. Remember that bolt that I put in here before? And now we just tighten that bolt in. And when you tighten the bolt in, it'll pop that rotor off. Sometimes you'll have to hold it because it's pretty tight. But as you can see, that's the easiest way. Comes right off like that. Now, don't pull it too hard because in the back over here, the parking brakes get rusted into the back of the rotor. So I want to show you that. All right, so you just break it loose a little bit, and now we're just gonna just play with it a little bit like this and turn it. You don't want to damage the parking brakes inside there. Watch you don't pinch your fingers in here because it hurts like a you know what. All right, and what happens is, see this rust inside here? That rust lip right inside here? See that lip? That lip is what causes this to not slide off here. So, all right, but this one here is no good. There's a significant amount of rust on here, and we're not going to put the new brake pads on. Plus, they pulsate like mad, so we are going to throw these away, and we're going to put new ones on. Now, remember we talked about the rust. Let me find my tools. Okay. Remember we talked about rust inside here? If this is rusted in here, you will need to either take a scraper and scrape it with some type of razor blade or emery cloth or whatever you have. If you don't have that, you can use a gasket scraper to clean it like this. Or you can do it the easy way, like I usually do. Take a disc like this, and we'll clean this up real good inside here before we put it back on. So, all right, let me get my air supply. We're going to start cleaning this up. And once we have it clean, we'll come right back, so don't go nowhere. Okay, when you get your new rotor, you're going to notice that the rotor is usually in plastic, and it also has a lot of oil on it because they lubricate it, so it's actually not rusting while it's in the warehouse. Now these rotors here, I am using what's called a premium rotor. They come plated with this material that's supposed to reduce all the rusting. They work pretty good, and they're really not that much more than the normal brake rotors. All right, so now you want to clean the face of the rotor off, both the back part as well as the front, to get all that grease off there. So you just spray it down, and you wipe it off. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to get most of it off because otherwise it will smoke. We're going to clean inside here where the parking brakes touch. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get most of it out of there. Same thing on here. And we're going to clean all this face off right here too. All right, now you'll notice that here on the brake rotor is a little tiny spot right there. You will need to put that plug back inside there that was off the old rotor. And the way you do that is you just go in through the back right here and you push that plug out. Comes out really easy. Don't stab yourself. All right, pushes right out. And you just push it right back inside the rotor like that. That's where you adjust your parking brake from, but we're not going to have to do anything with that right now. So, all right, let's put this back together. Okay. Now remember, we cleaned the face of the rotor off already. We are going to take the knuckle here. The hub. We're going to turn it till we get to that cutout area right there. That cutout area has to be right here because that's how you're going to reach in and adjust your parking brakes. So we just put that over the top like this. Slide it on all the way. And now that it's all the way on, we're going to leave this sit right now. We're going to go back over to that mounting bracket, and we're going to continue with that. All right, turn around, come on. Okay. This is your mounting bracket. You're going to pull these pins out. Now you see these pins here? You see how this one has that rubber seal on the end right there? I'm going to show you this one. And this one does not. what we're going to do is we're going to take some of that brake cleaner that we have on there. I have it on my rag now. Wipe it all down. They have to go back in the same location where they came out of. All right, just wipe it down like this. And now, before you put it back together, you put some lubricant on here. You don't have to use a lot. Too much is just as bad as not enough. All right, make sure it goes back in the same location where it came out of. Same thing right here, like that. Slide it back in. And now you want to make sure that you see that little collar right there, you see that little round area? You have to push it until it pops back up, like that. Very important, see? If it doesn't push up, then you just pop it back up with your finger, and you're in good shape. All right, now we're going to take these pads out. This one is a little rusty, so we're just going to persuade it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this caliper hardware here. Now, you can just pull it off, or you can get in here with a screwdriver just like that and pry it right off like this. And the same thing on this one here. Pry it off like this. Right? Now, if there is a lot of rust inside here where the hardware is going to go, you'll need to get in here and you'll need to clean this off with a scraper, a file, sandpaper, whatever you have. But this one here, as you can see, it's in pretty good condition. So, excuse me. Oh, okay, just put them over there. I'll be right back. Don't go on overlays. Okay, sorry about that. There's always work rolling in the door. Okay, whenever you get a premium brake pad, they usually come with the hardware already. So we're just going to open these up and I'll explain to you what I'm going to do here. Okay, so now remember we took the hardware out before. So what we're going to do is you put a little bit of grease everywhere that the hardware is going to connect onto. It minimizes the amount of rusting that takes place. And then we take the hardware, you put it over the top like this, and you just push it down like that, and you'll see it pops right into place just where it's supposed to. Very important whenever you do a job like this is to always change the hardware. If you buy a set of brake pads and it does not come with it, get it, because you'll have a problem. It'll avoid a problem for you. All right, so that's how the hardware kit looks. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to lubricate every place that the brake pad is going to touch. Makes everything slide nice and easy. See? This is the pad. And once you have the lubricant on it, you see how everything slides nice and freely? That's the way it's supposed to be. All right? So, all right, so that's that. Next thing we're going to do is, remember we took the brake pads off, and remember I said to you, we come back to this piece right here. This is what's called a disc indicator. When it wears down to a certain point, it needs to be replaced. These particular brake pads do not come with the indicator on them. They come separately. So what you need to do is you take the brake pad in your hand like this, you match up where the indicator is located now, and you put this indicator back on. This is the new one. You put it on like this. I'm going to put that down. Now this indicator's a little bit tight, so we're just going to force it on like this. I am going to tap this down a little bit here. See? Just on, just the way it's supposed to be, just like that. All right, so let me get my glasses, make sure it's in all the way, and we'll come right back. All right, don't go no place. Sorry about that. I get a million telemarketers every day. All right, this did pop in all the way. I did have to get my my glasses to see that, but they are in all the way. So now the next thing we're going to do is you match it up like this, and you see this here. That's where the inside piston touches. So this one we know is the inside brake pad. So we're going to take this brake pad. You can put it in either here, or you can do it later on a car. I like to do it here because sometimes I can see a little bit better. And we're going to do the same thing on this side here. Just push it in. And that's what the finished product is supposed to look like. Just like that. So let me turn you around, and we're going to continue. Hey, what are you looking at the ground for? Come on up here. All right. You just take this, slide it over the top, just like that. And then I squeeze the brake pads together just to keep it from falling out while you're working here. And you screw your 2 bolts in that hold the mounting bracket to the body of the car itself. All right, screw them in by hand. You want to get both of them caught before you tighten anything up. All right, screw it in as far as you can by hand. And we're going to grab our 17mm ratchet that we previously took the bolts out with, and we're going to reinstall them. Okay, brake pads are in place. Now we're going to take our caliper, and again, remember, everywhere that the brake pad touches, you want to lubricate. So if this piston here is touching the caliper, you want to make sure it's lubricated. Same thing over here and here, right? And then we slide this over the top. Now, you see how it slid right in without a problem? Sometimes that piston's not pushed in far enough, and you need to push that back in further. So let me grab a tool, I'll show you what to do with it. Okay, there's all different kinds of tools, but this one is the one that I use. All right, what you would do is you would take your caliper, put your brake pads in like this, right? And you take this tool, you put it in here like this, and it's pushed out too far. Put it in here like this. You didn't see me drop that, did you? Okay, I didn't think so. All right, put it in here like this. Put the tool in here and turn the tool. And that will push that piston back in. That's not the case here because I pushed it in before with that small little pry bar or screwdriver, so we don't have to worry about that. We saved ourselves a step. All right, take your caliper, put your caliper over the top like this, push your slide pins in, and then we take both of our bolts, catch them by hand. Before you tighten them in, you catch both of them in there. All right, now remember that was 14mm, so now we're going to tighten up the 14mm bolts. Now, see these pieces right here? Sometimes they make a difference which way they line up. In this particular case, it does not make a difference, but if it did, you want to make sure it slides in to where it's supposed to. But this one, like I said, does not. So we'll tighten that up. I'm holding it with my thumb, and we'll tighten it up. Same thing here. Now it's just me, but I always put things back the way that they came out. You'll notice that these slide pins were facing top to bottom, so that's the way I put them back in. Nice and tight. All right, so Let me take my gloves off. We're going to recap what we did, and then we're going to move to the front. All right. So, what we did is we put our new rotor back on. We cleaned up the face right here so that there's no rust underneath there. We slid it back on. We made sure we had that little groove, remember that cutout right there? We had it lined up with this, so in the event that I need to adjust the parking brake, I could get in there and I could adjust it. All right, we mounted our mounting bracket back on. We tightened up those 17mm bolts here and down the bottom. We installed our new hardware kit. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch, front and rear. We lubricated the slide pins, and we lubricated every place that the caliper comes in contact with the brake pads. And that's it. We tightened these 14mm up, and this job is done. We're going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and then we're going to move to the front. So get yourself a cup of coffee. I'm going to do the other side, and we'll come back in a couple of minutes. Okay, now after we have the back all finished, we're going to come up to the front here, and we're going to repeat the exact same process in the front. All right, remember, we're going to get in here with a pry bar. We're going to pry that piston right there back in as far as it can go into the bore. This is a 2-piston setup here, so we're going to have 2 pistons we're going to push back in. We're going to take out this bolt here. It's probably a 13, maybe a 12mm. We're going to take out that bolt as well as that bolt, and after we do that, we're going to come up underneath here, and we're going to take out that 17mm right there, as well as one more down on the bottom over here. All right, after we do that, we're going to take this, we're going to relocate the caliper off to the side up in here. We're going to hang it by a cable, and then we're going to take off this mounting bracket, and we will remove the rotor. And again, we're going to take that rotor off right here with that screw, or we can just bang it with the hammer, whatever works for you. So, all right, again, an example of the tools again that we're going to need. Some synthetic brake grease, of course, some brake cleaner, a hammer, new brake pads, as well as a new hardware kit, the tool to actually push the pistons back in, a tool to clean up the hub itself in case there's rust on it, some sockets, a couple of ratchets, screwdrivers, a file, a scraper, a very long pry bar in case we can pry the rotor off, and again, in case the hardware, the slide pins are frozen in, you can use these with either with the impact gun, or you can bang it with the hammer to knock it out, but we'll see how that goes. I don't think we're going to even need those, but that's it. All right, so let's get started. Enough BS. All right. All right, let's get started here. You're going to be able to see this, but I'm going to get some light in here the best I can for you. Hope you can see okay there. We're going to take out this bolt here, and again, I think that's probably going to be 12mm. I'm wrong. That's also a 14mm. I think I'm losing it today. All right, so now before we take this out, we're going to come in here with the pry bar like we did before. We're going to go up through here like this, and then we're going to pry just very light pressure to push that piston back in. Careful you don't knock your teeth out. It does slip out. Very light pressure, and you'll see it start to push in. And then we can push it back in that way and get behind the brake pad and push the brake pad all the way back into the bore as far as it's supposed to go. Make sure both pistons are in, because like I said, this is a dual piston setup on this one. All right, all the way in there, and we're all the way in there. Now it's no big deal, if you don't push them in all the way, we can do it later on, but I'm just trying to save a step. All right. Now we'll take out these bolts. Let's bring you a different direction here now. Hopefully you can see a little better. We're going to take out these 2 bolts in the back right here. Now Now remember, you're not going to lose these bolts because you're going to need to put these back in, so we'll put these on the side for now. We're going to take our caliper, just pull it off to the side like this, and what I usually do is hook it with a wire like this and just relocate it up out of your way. We're going to take out these spreader clips right here. We are going to use new ones, so we don't have to really worry about this. We are going to change them, but I always be careful. You don't want to drop them on the floor and run it over by accident and wind up with a flat tire. Alright? Alright, so we'll just put this off to the side for now. We will come back. You can see that this one is very close also. Alright, we're going to take this one out as well. Okay, now we're going to take out those bolts in the back that we talked about back here. It's a 17 millimeter. And once you break them loose, you can take them both out by hand. Don't lose them because you're going to need them. Now we're just going to take this off to the side for now, and we will come back to the cleaning up and replacing this hardware. Now we got to get that rotor off, so different ways you can do it again. You get back in here with a pry bar like this, and then you can take a hammer and you can hit it here a couple of times, and sometimes it'll pop off. Let me try it. Pretty tight. As you can see, it's not coming off. So you can get underneath here with a hammer and bang it back here to knock it off, but okay, I appreciate it. All right, thank you. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, like I said, you can bang in the back there, or you can just screw the screw in through here, like that. Now sometimes this is rusty and it doesn't really screw in too good, so just make sure you have it caught correctly. And you just turn this nice and easy. You may want to use eye protection so you don't get any kind of rust in your face. And you see how it pulls it right off? You don't have to break your coconuts trying to get this rotor off by beating on it with a hammer and possibly doing further damage. Alright, so we have it off. Take it off like this. And now this has actually got a significant amount of rust in here, so we are going to clean this up before we go any further. And there's different ways you can do that. You can get in here with the scraper, and you can scrape it to get all that rust off. You can use sandpaper if you have to, or emery cloth. You can use a gasket scraper like this to get it off. Or you can do it like this, use a disc like this, and you can clean up all of that rust on there so that it's nice and clean. So let me clean this up, let me get the new rotor, and we'll come right back. Okay. Now, new rotors come with oil on it, or grease. So you need to clean all that grease off of there. So we'll just take the bag, get rid of it, and now we're going to clean up the face right here with brake cleaner, just to get that grease off there. Now, if you get it all off, that's fine. If you don't get it all off, that's fine too. You just want to get the majority of it so it doesn't smoke. You can see how oily this is here. So we'll just clean it off a little bit with some brake cleaner. This will minimize the amount of smoking that's going to happen when you drive the vehicle. All right. And now once you got it clean, now we'll just put it back on the car. You just slide it back on. And now what I always do is take a lug nut and put a lug nut on here to hold the rotor in place while you're working with it. Otherwise it may fall off, and you may, not that it's going to be a big deal, but sometimes you'll wind up fumbling around with it when there's no need to. Okay, now after we have the rotor on the vehicle, we're going to change the mounting hardware. And this is the hardware kit right here. This is all the new pieces. All right, and what we're doing, you just take these and you pull it out. Sometimes they're a little tight. And you just pry them out, just like that. Now, if you're not sure where they're going to go or how you're going to put them back on, do them one at a time so you don't make a mistake. All right? Make sure there's not a lot of rust inside here, and as you can see, this one is clean. Now, take your hardware like this and just match it up with your replacement. See that? It's the exact same one, right? So we're going to take that, put it to the side. We're going to put a little bit of lubricant right in here. And then we're going to push this piece back on here so that it pops right back in where it belongs, just like that. And now we'll move over and we'll do the exact same thing on this one. Again, keep it in your hand. You don't want to mix them up because these are mirror images of each other. Okay, that's the wrong one, right? Okay, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. That one is the correct one. So we're going to take that one now and we're going to put it here. A little lubricant now again, just like that. And then we'll take this and you push it in here, just like that. Okay? And then we'll do the exact same thing on this side over here. Hold it in your hand, match it up, make sure you have the correct one. See? That's the correct one. A little bit of lube on here. And now we'll push this back in here where it came from. And last, we're going to do the exact same thing on this one. And we're going to look for its twin. You can see that's the wrong one, but that's the right one. All right. The only reason why I say this is because I do hear people emailing me, you know, how come they don't fit, or why isn't it going back together right? And that's usually why. All right, so now we have our hardware in there. You take these pins and you pull these out. Now, I just want to point this out. This one is a little bit tight. I can get it out, but it's a little bit tight. If by chance you can't get it out, you can take a tool like this here. This is made by OTC, and this goes around here like this. You would put this into the vise, and then you would take a hammer like that, and you would bang the back of it, just like that, and you see it pulls the pin right out. All right? Make sure you don't damage this boot here. You want to pull the boot back like that. Put the tool on it like this, and then you wrap it a couple of times in the back with a hammer, and it'll push this pin out just like that. All right? That's not the case here. It actually comes right out. But just in case you have a problem, now you know how to do it. I had a lot of people tell me to use vice grips to get these out. Vice grips causes a problem inside here. It eats it up a little bit. That tool was made specifically for that. All right? Make sure when you lubricate it, you push it back in until that boot pops back up. And we'll do the exact same thing here. Now this one is pretty tight also, but it comes right out. All right? Just a little bit of grease on here, not too much, and then we'll put it back in, push it in, and make sure it pops back up like that. All right, now every place that the brake pad is going to touch, you lubricate. Okay, just like that. Now, The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the brake pads that you took off. And you see this one here has got the, I'll show you. You see how it has these clips up on top here? These are the indicators. When they wear down to a certain point, they'll start to squeak. So we are going to put these back on to the new shoes. So this one is your outer brake pad. You can see it's the outer. And we're going to put it on this end over here. Okay. Just like that. Make sure you're inside. This is off just a little bit, so we're going to push it in just till it's in where it belongs, just like that. Okay? So now we know that this one is the outer brake pad. So we're going to put this one in the outer part, like this. On the bottom. Okay. Just like that. And now we're going to turn it around, and we're going to put the other pad in. Now, remember, this one is the inner. You can see the circles there, so we know that's the inner. So we need to put that clip back on there. Now just make sure the clip goes on all the way. Sometimes it feels like it is, and it isn't. Yeah. I'm just going to tap it in a little bit. And there, it's down all the way it's supposed to be. All right, now this we're going to put back in here the same way. This clip goes in first, like that. And then we're going to put the other one in here. Now, granted, sometimes this is a little bit of a pain in the rear end to do, so have patience. Okay. Hey, how you doing? Okay, I know you're saying about the grease all over the brake pad itself, but now after we get this whole thing put back together, we have it put in the bracket where it belongs, we're going to use some brake cleaner, and we're going to clean that grease from my hands off of the brake pads themselves before we put the whole thing back together. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so now that we have these back in place here and here, now we're going to take the caliper, we're going to put it back into the vehicle. So let's continue. Now you'll notice that I didn't put those spreader clips in yet, but we will get to that. Push it in, squeeze the brake pads together, and then we'll catch those bolts in the back that we previously took out, they're 17 millimeters. Okay. It's easier to put those spreader clips on a little bit later. Okay. And now we're going to tighten up. We'll tighten up those 17 millimeters. Okay. Now, when you put these spreader clips on and you put these in here, these brake pads are just naturally going to try to pop out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you an easier way to do it. Take your caliper and just temporarily put it on like this for a minute. We screw in one screw up on the top like this, and then we'll take this and rotate this up like that. Okay? Now, a little bit of lubricant. Every place that the brake pad, what are you looking down there for? Come on up here. Every place that the brake pad touches, like this, a little bit of lubricant on everything. Okay? like that. And now every place that that brake pad is going to touch is now greased. Now when you put these spreader clips in, the natural thing is this is going to try to push out. Let's see if I can get you on top and bottom here at the same time. Okay, so we're going to put this in on the top like this. And you'll notice the tiny little holes there. Put it in like that. Hold the brake pad and put it in just like this. And we'll do the exact same thing. See how it starts to push out? That's the way it's supposed to be, so it doesn't actually have the drag on it. And then we'll put the other one in the bottom here. See how it just naturally tries to pull out? Put your clips in all the way. And now you just take your caliper, put it over the top like this, and pull it down over the top. And now you didn't have to worry about those things popping out. Now you catch your second bolt on the bottom here. Oh. Tight. And now we're going to tighten it up with our ratchet. Now I'm going to point this out. When you're turning this, you'll notice that this piece up here okay, sorry about that. Okay. You'll notice that when you're up here and you're turning this, the whole thing is spinning. You see the slide pin is turning too? What you do is you come in here with a thin walls wrench and you hold it so it doesn't rotate, and you tighten up the bolt. That 14 millimeter in the back, you tighten it up and then you snug it down. And we'll do the exact same thing on the bottom here. Hold it like that. Tighten it up. And that's it. By holding a wrench on here like this, it keeps this from rotating. So let's just make sure these are tight enough. It is. And it is. Okay. We'll take these gloves off and we'll recap what we did. Okay. Okay. All right. So we cleaned up the face underneath here, where the rotor goes onto the hub. We put the new rotor on. We put our mounting bracket on. We tightened up the two 17 millimeter bolts in the back. We installed new hardware. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch. We also lubricated the slide pins right here, and we made sure our 14 millimeter bolts are tight top and bottom. And every place that the brake pad touches, we lubricated, both on the outside and the inside. That's it. We're going to do the exact same procedure on the other side, and we're going to wrap this job up and get it out the door. Now, one thing I just want to tell you. The wheel's back on, you get in the car, you pump the brake pedal a couple of times. That'll bring the brake pedal back up to its height where it's supposed to be. The initial times when you step on it, that brake pedal is going to go right to the floor. So you want to pump that up before you drive it. That's it. You're all set. Once you drive it, you may get a little smoking out of it, but nothing to worry about. It'll burn off within a mile or two. All right, that's it. You're all done. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.